Hey, what's up, guys? I want to have a little discussion about Damascus, more specifically the Damascus on the FU42. This is something that I had a lot of comments and messages about, if I can show this and talk about it. And the biggest question I had was, is it real Damascus or fake Damascus? And that's what we're going to look at. The answer is that it is real Damascus, although this specific pattern tends to look kind of fake, to be honest. This is something you'd kind of see. I mean, visually, just looking at it, it looks very much like Damascene steel, which is like a Damascus look. It's basically an etch on the outside of regular steel to give the effect of Damascus without actually having the real construction. But this is in fact real Damascus steel, and I'll talk a little bit about it in case people don't know, and I want to show you a close-up of this as well. But here's just something to look at while I talk about Damascus in general. Damascus as we know it today is not quite the same as what it used to be. The original Damascus, like when you hear about like samurai swords that were Damascus, or even different European swords, things from Scotland. Real Damascus, or I shouldn't say real, because what we have today as Damascus is genuine. It's just not identical. Damascus of 16th, 17th century, it was definitely different. It was different, first of all, because the raw materials were different. The technology was completely different. I think that's quite obvious. And over the years, over the centuries, there's been so many blacksmiths and metalsmiths that have just died off. And the art was kind of lost over the years. Now, of course, with science technology we have today, we can kind of find things and have an understanding of maybe how they did it. But we don't have someone to just explain it to us, So it's a lot of like research and trying to figure things out. It's a big puzzle. But there's definitely a difference in where the raw materials came from. I think what's considered true Damascus to, say, a collector who's looking for 16th century swords, stuff like that. The original Damascus was made with Wootz steel, WOOTZ. And basically, it's the steel that was created, I believe, in India originally. I think later it spread to Persia and other places around the world. But it had very specific characteristics in it. Okay, one of those characteristics was having carbon nanotubes. Now, what the heck is a carbon nanotube? Basically, the carbon that's in the steel itself has these nanotubes. A nanotube is basically the element itself, the carbon. Is the structural shape of it is cylindrical, okay, like a tube, and that has some very unique properties to it that lend some really interesting results when used for a lot of different things. In fact, nanotubes today are used in electronics of all kinds. It's used literally in nanotechnology. I know you guys have probably heard that, nanotechnology. Well, that's what it means. It means it's electronics that are used with, or that are comprised of things such as nanotubes. It's pretty fascinating, and I can't possibly even begin to get into explaining all of it because I don't know all about it. I just know some things about it. And obviously what's interesting to me pertains to knives and steel. That's where it comes from. They're just basically carbon fibers that are constructed of these nanotubes, carbon nanotubes. It's really fascinating. Well, speaking of carbon fiber, a lot of guys who are into knives, you'll look at things, say, oh yeah, it's carbon fiber. Do you ever really think of what that means? Carbon fiber. Some things you just take for granted. You go like, oh yeah, that's the stuff you can, carbon fiber hoods you see on cars, because it's fancy, because it's lighter. Carbon fiber doors on cars. The automotive industry has been using carbon fiber for many years now because of its benefits. It's extremely strong, but it's very light. So you can use it for structural things on vehicles and lessen the weight. So obviously you get more punch because when your car goes, there's less weight it has to move. Of course, it's been used in all kinds of advanced science things. I'm making an assumption here. I would probably say some kind of spaceships have been using carbon fiber as well as some other materials. I know back in the day when titanium first came out, that was oh my god, titanium, it's like steel, but it's so much lighter and stronger. It's like, whoa, where's this stuff coming from? It's really interesting. Like I can't really explain certain things to you because I honestly don't know about them. But what I can tell you about is Damascus. And the nanotubes are really interesting. But I still want to talk about carbon fiber for a second. Carbon fiber is basically epoxy or nylon. It's a combination of different synthetics, but it has carbon in it. The same as your blades usually do. Carbon steel blade is predominantly carbon. Even your stainless steel blades have some carbon in it. I mean, it depends on what you're talking about, but there's carbon in a lot of things. That gives you strength, gives you structure, So carbon fiber is plastic with carbon in it, So it's like, it's almost got the strength of metal. I'm trying to explain this, in simple terms so people can understand it. Someone who's a metallurgist would be watching this video going, just shaking his head. Oh my God, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm trying to get the gist of it across to you guys because it's fascinating. It's fascinating to me. So when you have carbon fiber, there's all different versions of it. And when you get a cheap Chinese knife from overseas that's $5 and has a carbon fiber handle, it may be real carbon fiber where it's a synthetic or, like I said, some kind of epoxy or plastic, and it has carbon in it. But the primo carbon fiber, like the most expensive carbon fiber you're going to find, is expensive because it has those nanotubes in it, the carbon nanotubes, which lends the most strength to the overall construction of that material. So just really, the whole thing's really fascinating. So if you want to learn more about this stuff, look up Wootz Steel, WOOTZ, and look up carbon nanotubes would be another thing to be interesting. I mean, if you want to read more about this stuff. And of course, Damascus. Now, what I want to do is compare real Damascus, which I have here, up against some Damascene stuff. And you'll see in catalogs such as like Bud K and stuff, they'll have a lot of Damascus-looking blades. And first of all, to differentiate between real and fake, price usually is a pretty good indicator. If you're looking at a knife that's Damascus and it's $8, it's probably not real Damascus, But what they'll do is, because they can't falsely advertise and say this is Damascus when it's not, there'll be all kinds of alternate names for it. Like Damascene or Damascenes is another way they'll say it. Basically, it's scened or scenic as if it's, Damascus, but it's not. Or they'll spell Damascus wrong on purpose, Damaskus or something like that, Or they'll use all the different alternations on the word. So that's the first thing you have to look at is, how is it spelled? Is it spelled exactly like it should be spelled? Okay, then what's the next step? All right, well, how much is it? Now, price isn't always a factor. Most of the time it is. Like I said, if you're spending less than $20, it might not be real Damascus. It's more than likely not going to be real. However, there are lower quality Damascus that are in that price range. One of the cheapest companies that puts out real Damascus folders and fixed blades that are very affordable is Fox and Hound. Fox and Hound puts out a Damascus lockback, which is real Damascus, and it's very nice for like $22 or something. They also have a couple of fixed blades in the $30 and $40 range that are really nice, and it's real Damascus. But sometimes people are tricked or fooled by that, and there is definitely some scheming when companies do that. They'll basically etch the outside and look like Damascus, and people think it's real, and they buy it, not considering the price is so cheap that it's probably not real. So what else? What else can we talk about Damascus? It's highly sought after because of the fact that it looks really nice. It creates really cool patterns. There's all different kinds of Damascus out there. That's what I wanted to say, is there is a difference between a lower quality and a higher quality. Let me get to the basics here first, because I'm talking as if most of you guys watching are already really into knives and you know a little bit about it. Perhaps you don't. So here's the basics. What is Damascus? Why does it look like this? What is it? Basically, Damascus is multiple types of steel, different types of steel that are sandwiched together. Okay, sometimes they're welded together, other times they're forged together. There are different kinds. Basically, you have a layer. Imagine like a sandwich. Okay, you got your bread, then your meat, then your cheese, maybe your condiments, whatever, vegetables, more bread on top. That's kind of what it is. It's all these different types of steel. Now, most of the time you get a nice pattern here because what you'll do is you'll use, say, a stainless steel, and then you use a carbon steel. And carbon steels tend to be darker because of the more carbon in it. And what that does is it gives you the different colors. Well, basically different shades, I should say. Okay, you can have colored Damascus, which is called Damascus. Not to confuse you, but Damascus with a T is Damascus with titanium in there. So now you can anodize the titanium, which gives you color. A lot of the ultra expensive, really collectible, high-end customs, you'll see that they're just beautiful, and there's all this color. They have, you know, Damascus bolsters and the blades, and they have like the Damascus, or Damascus in that case, patterns can be actually so vivid. They look like, you know, little animals or whatever. That's all like new age stuff. That's not something that's always been around. But yes, there's many different forms of it. And you can have many different layers. Well, I didn't even finish explaining it. Basically, we have our metal sandwich, right? All different types of metals. Now, each one of these layers offers something. You know, the high carbon is going to be less brittle than some of the stainless steels, you know? So you have rigidity, but you have strength. You want something that's going to hold a nice edge, but you don't want it to, like I said, to be brittle or shatter upon impact. Okay, again, think about this originally being made for swords. Okay, now unlike your folding knife of 2012, your sword in 1625 was your lifeline. That's what you needed to eat, survive, fight, you know, defend. And that thing got banged around. Okay, and cheaper swords back in the day, they would snap, break, shatter, you know, chip, and that's why Damascus really was created. It was a kind of a compromise. It's like, all right, well, I want a soft steel, so if I impact really, you know, on something really hard, it's not going to break. But the soft steel doesn't get very sharp, so I also need a hard steel. So what do? You don't pick between both. You have both. You know, you forge them together. And what you do is, because you want more strength, you basically, you have all the steel, and it's connected together, and now you heat it up, stretch it out, fold it. Heat it up, stretch it out, fold it. And you keep doing this process. So you're creating tons and tons of layers. And you can visually see all the different layers because of the different colors of steel. And depending on how you're folding it and how you're shaping it, you know, it changes your ultimate pattern. Devin Thomas is a master of Damascus. And you'll see a lot of companies such as William Henry, you know, their fine knives, Chris Reeves knives. You'll see, you know, Devin Thomas Damascus. And there's a multitude of guys out there who do stuff like that, but he's one of the more well-known ones, okay? And his patterns they're sought after because he knows what he's doing. He makes these really nice, beautiful works of art, but they're all functional. The purpose behind the Damascus blade in general, whether it be on a folding knife like this or originally on a sword or a dagger of some kind, is the best of both worlds. You don't have to pick between a high carbon blade and a stainless blade. You can have your cake and eat it too. You can have the sharp edge you need, but you can also have the softness, okay? It's a compromise of everything. It's supposed to be the best. That's why it's so sought after. It's not like regular stainless steel where you cut your blade shade out and, you know, you do some grinding and sharpen it and you're done. There's a long process that comes with making Damascus steel. And of course, the more layers, the more time consuming it is. So generally speaking, if you have like a 200 layer Damascus, it'll be cheaper than, say, a 400 layer Damascus or a 1,000 layer Damascus. And then when you're going for specific designs, such as, say, like the bird's eye Damascus from Devin Thomas, you know, or a spiral Damascus, of course, all that you have to take in consideration. The time and effort it's going to take and the materials to get exactly what you want will affect price. Damascus steel could be as cheap as like $30 an inch. Other Damascus steel can be $600 an inch. It really just depends who's making it, how they're making it, how long it takes to make it, and so forth, you know, and their time. And when it comes from a famous maker, obviously their time comes with a premium. So that's just some general information about Damascus. Like I said, if you want to really look into the stuff about the carbon fiber and the carbon nanotubes and all that, it's very fascinating and interesting, but I don't know enough about it to speak more in depth, because it would just be me reading from some website and telling you about it. That's not what I'm about. I'm just sharing information I already know. I don't like to just pretend like I know what I'm talking about. So anyway, to get to this specific knife, because of the larger areas, like for example, like right here we have this kind of diamond shape, you know, and it's all the carbon, that dark carbon. That is kind of reminiscent of the fake Damascus, because they'd have patterns like this, very distinct patterns. you want to recognize it right away. That's the whole purpose that they're doing it. And what they do is they etch the blade, you know, with an acid etch or laser etch, whatever, and they give this look to it. But really, the core of the metal itself is not layered. It's not multiple types of steel. It's just one steel with a picture on it. That's pretty much the best I can explain it. But real Damascus steel is solid all the way through. So the easiest way you can tell if it's real or not is that, of course, the sides will be looking like Damascus. But on a fake one, the spine will never ever have layers. They don't choose to etch the back of the spine of the blade ever. You can't check the edge because obviously it's real thin. Hopefully, if you got a sharp knife. If you could see Damascus on your edge, you should probably sharpen your knife. But that's the first indicator, is obviously if it's the entire blade, then it's real. Now, if you have a cheaper knife or a folder, you can, of course, if you're able to take your folder apart, you can look in, because another thing is they will not etch the tang, something you're normally not going to see. But with this blade, as we examine it further, we'll see that there's the layers throughout the entire steel. The whole piece. I mean, you know, the tang here in this case, this balisong, the spine, everywhere we see the layers. But more importantly, the layers actually match up, okay? What I'm talking about, I have to get really close to this. Like, let's say, see this thick, fat, black line right here? Comes in, kind of swoops up a little, comes over. Right here, this one. Keep an eye on that. Let's look at this one, because I want to follow that design all the way up to the top. Follow all the way up to right here where my fingernail is. And let's see if it's on the spine right there, which it is. And in this case, once we go to the spine, it cuts across and goes this way. Now we're looking at the spine, let's look at something else that's a little fatter. See that fat black right there? Right there, it's kind of hard. I should have got something really thin for a pointer. But follow that. Just look at, I'm going to give you a second just to follow something. Doesn't matter which one you follow, but look at one of the black lines that are leading up to the top of the spine. Now follow it. As we go around, I turn the blade. You can see how it progresses. You can see it's an actual layer within the steel that is continuing. Alright, so this is just some things you can do to look at your knives to see if it's real Damascus or not. Of course, price will affect it. Damascus is not cheap. There's cheaper Damascus, but generally speaking, it's going to be more expensive. Alright, so if you have a regular version of a knife, for example, in this case, the regular version of the FU42, it's like $100. And I know if you go to the website, it's mostly trainers right now. There were a bunch of different models, but I don't know if they're still going to be for sale or not. Or maybe they're just sold out. But the difference between the $100 one that's regular stainless steel and getting a Damascus one, in this case, it's $50. This knife is $150 if you're interested in buying it. So that is the difference. You're talking about a $50 difference. Overall, a $100 knife or a $150 knife, you have to ask yourself if it's really worth it. A lot of people ask me, is Damascus just for show? On cheap knives, yeah, because sharpening cheap Damascus, I find, usually doesn't hold a great edge, but a good quality Damascus does. Okay, and its original purpose was to be better than other steels. That's why it was created, to have, like I said, the best of both worlds. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about Damascus in general, because it's not something that's come up on the channel too often. I mean, at least in video format. A lot of messages and questions about it over the years, but I never really made a video on it. So I figured I'd talk about it, and then obviously answer a lot of people's questions about this specific knife, if this was real Damascus, which it is. It is genuine Damascus. But anyway, just pretty interesting. Just wanted to show that and talk about it a little bit. The carbon nanotubes I find to be really interesting, but it's a very detailed subject and a lot of big words. And, you know, as I'm I started reading some things about it too. I looked into it. And some things I just didn't understand. Like when someone's trying to explain something to you and you don't understand their simple explanation and it's like that involved, you got to make a decision. Either like, okay, that's not for me to find out because that's way too complex, or break it down into simple terms and go even simpler than that to try to really understand it. But like I said, I mean, what I was reading, the specific, there was 3 websites I was looking at on nanotubes, and all 3 of them happened to branch off into electronics and, you know, digital stuff, and like that, I don't really have interest in that much. I wanted to learn more about it pertaining to metallurgy and knife making, of course. But anyway, that's all. Hopefully that answered a couple questions you guys had, or if you didn't have any questions about Damascus and didn't know much about it, maybe you learned something. The skinny on it is it's layered steel. Each steel that's layered in there has its own, you know, pros and cons, and hopefully you get all the pros and very little cons by combining them together. Smush them, heat them up, fold them, stretch them, fold them. You know, like think of like a pizza dough. You know, although in this case, the more the better. The more layers usually the better. Whereas if you keep kneading dough, eventually you get too tough on you. Maybe that wasn't a great example, but that's pretty much it. That is Damascus, and in this case, that is real Damascus. So that's all. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.